Morning everybody, my name's Martin Hurworth, I'm the CEO of Botronic Vision Automation. So we've been going about 27 years, based just south of Birmingham in Bromsgrove, based in the UK, but we're a global integrator and many of you will have known us for several years. What I'm going to talk about, and it's around ROI, so return on investment. It's a conversation that is irritatingly close to my heart because I have to go and sell to customers and they bring up ROI all the time. I believe, and it's something I'm going to talk about in this presentation, there's a big blind spot that's been missed. So what I'm actually looking at here is a set of conversations I think we should all be having with customers to open up the debate around automation and to essentially be able to promote automation to a wider customer base. So the UK wants growth. We all know that. It's in the press every single day. And we struggle to deliver it for lots and lots of reasons, political and all kinds of things. It's around the fact that it's actually harder, it's more expensive to employ people now, and that trend is continuing to go upwards. It's also that skilled capacity, skilled operators, people in the field, they're just not as available as they used to be. And again, this is a conversation that Dan, we were having yesterday. There's a lot of research around this, that those skilled operators are just not coming through. But the other bit I think is also really interesting, and COVID gave us a bit of an indication around this. Businesses need to be resilient, more resilient going forward. So ROI negates some of these important other conditions that need to be described. So through this, the sort of conversation will be, and what I think we could be asking our customers when we're trying to win business, is how exposed is your operating model to the future that's coming? And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. So just to be clear, if everybody doesn't know, traditional ROI, or return on investment, very simply has been the cost of the project, so our equipment, customers' time, that kind of thing, divided by the number of hours it saves. A very, very simple equation. And then, of course, there's a payback that comes out of it. Hopefully it's 2 years, 3 years. So this kind of conversation around what's a sensible ROI was actually how this kind of talk came about. But I think the question is actually bigger than that. The trouble with this, though, it doesn't see the whole risk. And on the left-hand side is kind of the old approach, or the current approach, to how we justify automation. And we kind of compare that against, we can just employ more people, we can flex more people, we can move people around, we can train people. But the data is showing that that's not really possible. On the right-hand side, what's the reality of what's happening, and it's only getting worse, unfortunately, is people, manual capacity, and I'm going to talk about capacity because we have our automation capacity, costs more. Migration is tightening. The government has done a very good job there in terms of that migration pool. It's a big political decision, but we can't rely on that anymore. We've got employment rules which are tightening. We also know that we've got a workforce which is ageing and retiring out of industry. We also know that it's actually quite challenging for mundane work, for people to be employed in mundane work. You've got, why would you work in a 2-degree big fridge when you could be working in Amazon, for instance? And these are all big trends that are driving. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a shift coming that the ROI model, the traditional ROI model, understates. So what does the data show? Because we're all engineers and we need data. So there's 3 big shifts here. This is quite stark when I looked at this. So your minimum wage employee costs the business in 2024 just over £24,000. So that was national insurance, so the national insurance additional cost and the minimum wage. That increased by £3,500 in 2026 when we had the 15% NI, and the NI value dropped from £9,000 to £5,000, the threshold at when we start paying for it. So today, when we're looking at ROI, it's already £3,500 more expensive to employ somebody than 2 years ago. Next year, that trend will continue. The national living wage is tipped to go up by 3.7%, which means in a year's time, we're actually going to be on nearly £29,000 for a basic level, entry, lowest level salary position. And of course, a lot of what we automate when we're doing that ROI calculation is on that wage point. So it makes automation more compelling from that point of view. But if you're a manufacturer, there's huge risk here because you cannot control your costs. You don't know where that wages bill is going in the future. Also, from the government, some big policy changes there. We've just talked about the first one, which is wages. The second one is the first day rights, the employment rights. That's changed quite a lot of the dynamic about employing people. And the rights that you get from first day, the sixth month tribunal element. And then the third thing the government has done a good job on here is migration. It is very hard to now, despite what some of the press is saying, it actually is quite hard to migrate into the country now, and the data is showing that. So last year, 36% reduction in non-health workers' visa applications in this country. And actually the threshold now for salary, for when you're employing somebody and you're bringing them in as a migrant, is now £42,000. So that cost is already a lot higher. What this does mean, of course, is there's huge uncertainty if you're an employer. So it's not that people don't exist, it's just that they're not in the right place and they're not skilled correctly. So there is a pool of people out there, but they're just not readily available, operational ready for us to use in manufacturing. Data again is showing that the right-hand side. So as engineers, engineering businesses, there's some long-term trends there that are showing it's hard for us to recruit people. So 76% of engineering employees struggle to recruit technical roles, 55,000 long-term unemployment roles. And of course we know that automation can do a lot of the heavy lifting there. So growth needs operational skill. This slide's a bit of an additional bit of data really, but the big number there is there's £6 billion of annual lost income by not having the right workers. So, the capacity problem. We have three choices. We can train more UK people. That's difficult, it's laggy, we've got to get the people in the right place, it's going to take a while. It's not going to allow us to move fast enough. We can use migration, politically sensitive, and we will use migration. And then, of course, the third one is to automate more. And we can do that now, and the advantage of that is the costs are then fixed. So the world's changed from what I've observed. Before it had the assumption, and we were benchmarking our ROI against people being available. In reality, that's not the case. They're more expensive, they don't have the skills, they're reducing in flexibility, and it's a big capacity issue for us. So my suggestion is that we talk to our customers in a different way. I think we should talk to them about traditional ROI because everybody understands that. That's quite nice and simple. But I think the second piece is we have a conversation around business resilience. And we bring to them some of these points that I've described earlier. So left-hand side, traditional model, don't need to talk about that. Right-hand side is to do a bit of an FMEA, a bit of a risk assessment over their business resilience when these changes come through. So manual labour availability, work attractiveness, skill scarcity, training log. And we need to apply a numerical approach to this. So 4 stages, work with a customer to identify the exposure, score the exposure, test the consequence, and test the automation ability. Again, if you've got an FMEA background, a risk assessment background, this is fairly logical. I think what's key, you do it in 2 stages. You look for where we are now, and then you look for where we are going forwards. So you look at the current pressure, perhaps staff retention, or currently when we're recruiting, we found it difficult to find staff. And then you add a number, then you look to the future and go, which direction is that going to go? Is it going to get harder or better? It's going to get harder. Then you look at the business impact, how easy to recover from it, and actually is this solution, can it be automated? Is this a solution that automation is the answer? Automation isn't the answer to everything, generally. Well, it is, but here it is. And then what you do is you build this into 2 models. You've got your traditional ROI, numbers, and then on the second one, we do this resilience ROI. And this is just ideas that we could be talking to customers about. There's no hard and fast here. It's just raising the conversation. So it's not just the hard ROI facts, but we apply some different metrics to it. And actually, there are some numbers that we can apply to these different ROIs in terms of lost time, downtime, that kind of thing. The good news, and again, the the Bank of England advised me this the other day. There's a lot of money out there in the banks. The UK PLC is well funded. The banks are kind of de-geared, so they've got lots of cash available and absolutely desperate to lend. And the view was they will lend if the business case makes sense. So if they don't lend, the business case doesn't make sense. And our role here, we can help this. We can give that credibility to this. £40 billion of assets £40 billion of asset finance was available last year, which is a nice big number. So really what's changed? We've now got a people capacity issue in this country. We've got the costs are increasing and we don't know where that stops. So automation can really just tie that to where we are now. Skill capacity is reducing and it doesn't look like it's going to turn quickly. Operating exposure matters. Now we've all had this. We've had COVID. We've lived through COVID. We understand the challenges there. We've already seen what it's like. The businesses need to be resilient. That needs to be factored in. I believe, and I think it's a conversation we should be having with customers, is that yes, the ROI is great, but it ignores another section. And we should be asking our customers, how exposed are you if you do not automate? That's it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
That was really good, thank you. You're describing kind of the ROI and CapEx conversation. What I find challenging is to get to the operational people. So how are you thinking about broadening that conversation to the people that have those numbers?
Yeah, so it's one of the things we always try and do is move up the chain when we're talking to people. For us, it's always about trying to move up. So we always try and move up the management chain to try and talk more operationally as possible. But it's not always possible. And I think part of what I'm proposing here is if we try and have a broader conversation, and when we're doing a quotation, these kind of risks are associated with it, the risks are in there, this is how our system de-risks this future trend. It just makes the story a bit bigger and almost not let the customer not answer those. So, if the customer goes, we're trying to expand, and go, well, how are you going to, we're going to take more people on. No, you're not, because here's the data that says they're not available. And I just think we've got to be a bit more ruthless, not ruthless, that's not what I meant to mean, a bit honest, yeah, that's fair, a bit more honest.
So I like the last sentence, skill is finite, but automation is scalable. But if you don't get the skill back over time, who's going to automate that? Because you have to train someone up, and I'm really worried about my children. What is going to happen with them in 16 years' time when we enter the market? Who is training them? There's a gap somewhere.
The children issue is a constant one. I mean, we've got obviously family WhatsApp, and I'm always sending my children, the latest doom and gloom in terms of don't do this role, don't do this, because AI is coming, and don't think you could do this before, because that's not the case. I think it's a genuine problem we have. I mean, I think when we are doing automation, for us, it's really important to have a decent set of engineers on the customer side. And I would say generally we lose business, or business does not happen, not because of CapEx, it's because that they're too over-resourced. They've got too much going on. So projects just get kicked along because the process engineers aren't available. And I'm quite, I started in the 90s, so I started around when Lean was introduced from Toyota. There was a very sort of definite path there of how you kind of delivered projects, and Lean was part of it. Now it's like we've seen the customers have leaned out themselves completely, and there is no expertise on their side to even know what good looks like. So, and again, I think it's Dan, we've been talking about this as well. It's a bigger piece in terms of this is where the world's going. We need to have trained engineers to be able to deliver the automation, because the automation is the multiplier. We're living in a capitalist world. It is about return on investment at business level, and automation facilitates some of that productivity improvement. And I was going to say, actually, the lack of growth in the market in manufacturing, from a country point of view, is not great. But from our point of view, there's massive opportunity there, because if businesses, they still need to grow their bottom line, and they can grow their bottom line by automating. So the pie for us is good, but the sort of the UK is not good. But our bit is we can be part of the story that improves productivity, and that's what we need to lean into.